Ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight to Town Hall. I'd like to recognize Councilman Eric Nash, who's going to deliver the invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for letting us all gather here this wonderful evening. Thank you for the sunshine that has come after all the rains. Bless everything that we take action on tonight, that it will be in good in your sight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order, and it's been 5 or 6 weeks since this body last met. We have a very ambitious agenda, and we're going to do the pledge in just a moment. I changed things up a little bit. There's a reason behind that. But I'm going to ask people who speak tonight, we want to hear you. We may ask you to confine your remarks to 3 minutes. We have one public hearing to start with. Several people have asked to speak. I'm going to probably, if it starts getting repetitive, I'm going to try to be courteous. We're going to try to move you along tonight, okay? We ask you to join, we invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd also ask everyone here tonight if they would join me in giving a nice Blackstone welcome to Councilman Lonnie Morgan. This is his first council meeting. We want to welcome Lonnie aboard.
Thank you very much.
Quite an interesting spring here in Blackstone. I'm glad to have Lonnie, and we'll get right to work. Ladies and gentlemen, your first order of business tonight is two public hearings. One is to amend the zoning ordinance to allow in the specialized business district, which is basically the shopping centers, to change the rules of zoning to allow vape shops are already allowed in Blackstone, but the gaming venture. Mr. Van Orbeck.
The request is for a computer-based gaming establishment is the definition that we have, and I think the applicant is here to explain, and he can more clearly define exactly how it is that he's going to do it. The state of Virginia obviously has fairly stringent rules about gaming and gambling and all those kinds of things, and it's our understanding, based on the application that was made and the presentation that was made at Planning Commission, that any of the operations or activities at the facility would comply with state code. The SB district encompasses the shopping center and the Food Line Shopping Center. Excuse me, the Walmart Shopping Center and the Food Line Shopping Center. Those are both considered SB district. That was created probably in the mid-2000s, I guess, for to allow certain activities that may not be compatible with other retail or other commercial activities. The first request or the first public hearing will be to amend the ordinance to allow, as a conditional use, computer-based gaming establishments. The second public hearing would be specific to the application that Players Vape and doing business, or Ryan Short doing businesses, Players Vape has made. So.
The first hearing is simply to pave the way for the proposed specific venture. Is anyone here tonight for or against the zoning amendment, which is non-specific? It's a general that applies to everybody that wants to come to Blackstone. I see Miss Ann Hoover.
Fixing the whole thing, so anyway.
If you come to the podium, please, so we can make sure your comments are heard.
This really covers both of them, I guess. But I've been concerned about this. We have a vapor shop, of course, in Blackstone in the old Draper Funeral Home building, and I didn't know what it was. And so I asked somebody, and they said, well, it's safer than smoking. And after a little research, I discovered that professors at the University of California, Boston University, Johns Hopkins University, New York School of Medicine have said, and that's just a little bit of what's on the internet, that users of e-cigarettes have more respiratory problems than non-users. 2, it's not a harmless water vapor, as some claim. 3, propylene glycol is a chemical and can irritate eyes and airways. 4, when heated, it can degrade into formaldehyde, and there's another carcinogen, but I didn't know how to pronounce it. It's not clear how much for how long might cause cancer. The smoke 5 may contribute to lung and bladder cancer and heart disease. 6, e-cigarettes can release significant amounts of toxic metals in its vapor. And 7, many doctors fear this is a precursor for smoking real cigarettes.
Ms. Hoover, I don't want to cut you off, but the vape shops that you're talking about so very well are allowed anywhere in Blackstone right now. They're allowed by state law. and by local ordinance. You and I, so anyone to market, locate a vape shop. So I just want to make sure that the subject tonight is the gaming.
Right, but that leads up to.
Okay, I'm sorry, go right ahead, go
what
right
we
ahead.
have.
Okay.
At the Food Line Shopping Center store, you'll be required to purchase a vapor product to enter, and you could be rewarded more vapor products if you win in gaming. Playing games on the internet and with videos has been reported very addictive for many people. Parents are warned to limit the time that the children are allowed to participate. Shooting, injuring, and killing victims in games makes it easier to accept those things in real life. Now, I wonder, if gaming is just such a forerunner to gambling, are you willing to risk a Jacksonville, Florida shooting in Blackstone? Is life so cheap that we would sacrifice our children on the altar of money? The end doesn't justify the means. If you cause one young person to go astray, the Bible says it'd be better for a millstone to be hung around your neck. I pray you will not decide to bring temptation to our town to lure our young people into self-indulgence and destroying their health. Instead, let's reward them for working and helping others. Teach them to glorify God and the value of developing character. Offer perks to people who could bring clean fun, as a swimming pool or skating rink or whatever, to our community. An investment in the Army Community Center could provide teaching and hands-on experience in life skills so needed by our youth. The Nottoway Extension is eager to provide leadership if we have a building. Meanwhile, don't allow the minds and bodies of our young people to be poisoned with impure or deadly recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Point of clarification to town manager, I believe the proposed establishment, you must be at least 18 to enter, isn't that correct?
I don't know that, to be.
Is that correct, Mr. G and Mr. Short? Yes. I wanted to make sure I heard that right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Well said as always. Anyone else to speak for or against the proposed zoning amendment? We're going to get into specifics of the actual business in the second hearing. Hearing none, Colonel Tom.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
My hand is up.
Well, I'm going to recognize Councilman Wilkerson had a question.
I just want to state that I got a few phone calls today regarding this, that they're not in favor of it. They're concerned about who would police it. Is money going to be distributed there? You know, could it then become an area where would be ripe for, robberies? And then the other piece of it, opening the gambling door, it leads to the addiction piece. And
I also got calls also.
concerns that my constituents had.
Very good. Ms. Bonnell, I'm sorry.
You are fine. May I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Kind of piggybacking on what Mrs. Hoover said, my concern is that we are proposing to change the zoning in our community to allow a business whose profit is based on feeding addictions to enter into our community. Would that be a fair thing to say? We're changing a zoning ordinance to allow business which will profit from feeding other people's addictions into our community. And I realize that vape shops are allowed, so we can't really say anything about that. We could talk about what the medical journals say. We could talk about what the research says, but they're allowed, so you can't really do anything there, right? But I don't really see a reason to allow gambling within our community. If we do, that is not indicative of the Blackstone I moved to 19 years ago, last month, actually. When I moved here, Blackstone billed itself as a Mayberry, a charming, unique community that had retained that charm over the years, where so many other towns around us were beginning to die off, unfortunately, and were declining in many ways. I would hate to see us move towards becoming a place where we will allow any, for lack of a better term, unsavory business access into our community that will, again, like I say, feed on people's addictions. I believe that there was a situation in Pennsylvania not too long ago where a community was tasked with changing a zoning ordinance. And the people came together and spoke and said that they did not want gambling within their community. So if people have called you and they have expressed that concern, I urge you to consider it and think about that. I think it's very important, as you all know, to listen to the people of the community. I do not think that this is the right location for that, beside a grocery store, especially where there are young children. But I do hope that you will consider not changing the ordinance. I do believe it is in the best interest of our community.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Bennell. Anyone else? This is just on the zoning amendment. Of course, if the zoning amendment were to fail, then the permit would be moot. Mr. Wayman Mitchell, yes.
I agree with what the two ladies said.
Okay, we got 3 people who have spoken. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And you get the prize for being the shortest so far. Anyone else?
Shortest person, shortest speech.
Yeah. Anyone else on the zoning amendment? I'm going to close that public hearing, and I guess the council should discuss the general zoning amendment, because if the zoning amendment doesn't pass, then there's the proposed venture would be unlawful. At this point, I'd be curious again. I don't really have an opinion either way. I will say this: I'm very libertarian. Don't forget that the Commonwealth of Virginia is the biggest enabler of gambling. When you look at the lottery proceeds, you know that Nottaway County residents, most of whom can't afford to buy food, spent $6 million on lottery tickets last year in Nottaway County. Mm-hmm. You know what the annual retail sales in Nottaway County are per year? $100 million. $6.5 million was spent on lottery tickets. I bought 2. How many did y'all buy? How many folks here tonight have been to a computer-based gaming facility? I'm not advocating. I'm just trying to get a context of our opinions. That's all. I'm not advocating them.
For the applicant to come up and
I think
what kind of business.
I think at this point the applicant should probably come up, because it looks like
and explain
there's definitely some
what
opposition
it
here.
is and
This is Ryan Short of Littleton, North Carolina. Thank you, Mr. Short, for coming tonight.
Nice to meet all of y'all. First off, the first thing I wanted to address is in the state of Virginia, by the statutes of Virginia state law, this is not considered gambling. So I wanted to go ahead and clear that. I believe in freedom of speech. You know, the newspaper might have posted some things that were a little, differentiated by certain people. If you give me, I'm sorry, I'm going through walking pneumonia, so I'm a little short on breath.
All right, take your time.
The way that this business works, these businesses are all throughout the state of Virginia. This is not considered the same as lottery, because lottery is all of chance. Everything, you pick numbers, which I guess there could be a skill to that to some extent, but it's considered legal in the state. Along with these skilled games. These games are not games that you go in, hit a button, a slot machine spins, you win a prize. These are all games that require skill. The more you're skilled in these games, the better your chances of winning. You can't just go in and play and play and play and hit the button, hit a button, hit a button. You actually have to study these. You have to make moves. You have to determine, if I move this here and then I spin this here, will that create a straight line of, horseshoes, things like that. And like I said, these are all throughout the state of Virginia. You're seeing them more and more every day, all throughout North Carolina. North Carolina changed the statutes many years ago to make these completely legal, as Virginia followed right in their footsteps. So anything that you have, as long as you're going by the game of skill in the state of Virginia, it's not considered gambling, it's not considered illegal. It's a legit business that can pay out money, can reward people with supplies, anything along that form.
Okay. Members of council, this is the time. Any questions?
So do you have to have the vape shop with the gambling? Or can it just be a vape shop?
Can it just be?
Do you have to have it with the gambling?
It's
Or
part
can
of
it just
it's our
be?
business. We always put that with it.
you have other locations, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how do they operate? Are they safe? Are they?
Oh, completely safe. I said this at the last meeting. Majority of the people that use these games are in their 40s, 50s, if not older. It's something to do. It's almost, similar to like a bingo. You see the bingo places everywhere. But it's not something that's like going to a casino in Vegas. These are games that require skill. You go in, you play for a little while. All the ladies from the golf course in Emporia come every day. They go play golf, they come play, and then they go and eat lunch or, do whatever they do. It's never had any issues. People always are adults, of course, you have to be 18 or older to enter. We came up with an agreement that we would have security on the weekends at night. And, along with anything else that goes with that, I think we agreed that 12 o'clock would be the closing time. There's no need to stay open past that. What good happens after midnight anyway. But one of the key things with this is, I think there's a bar right here on Main Street. A lot of people 21 and older can go in that bar, including myself. I could drink 3 too many beers, I could drive home, and something bad could happen. With this facility, we will not allow alcohol, drugs, any kind of substances along that lines. This is something that opens fun for the community. You can go in, you can have a little bit of fun, you can play these games, you can go back home. This is, it's nothing along the lines that will cause any trouble. And that's why we have the security that will be there on the weekends. We even offered if the police department would like to have officers work there on the weekends to earn overtime, we would pay their overtime. Things along that lines. So we're willing to work with you in any way that makes you feel more comfortable with it. But this is not an establishment that will have trouble or have harmful things going on inside of it. And I know one of the questions someone will probably ask, as it was asked before, is this a high-stake robbery location? I think Blackstone has had a few robberies in the past. It's the same as any gas station or anywhere else. We can't control what people do or when they do it. It's just one of these things that we just have to all deal with, as it comes and goes. But this would not be a high-risk facility because there will be security there. The police are more than happy to work there as well if that's what they like to do, patrol in and out throughout the day, throughout the night. All of that, Emporia works that way. The police officers sometimes come in and just walk through it. And the state police also do come in, check these facilities randomly, undercover. They do this to make sure that you're only including the games of skill, no games of chance, to make sure that you're running and operating by the state law. And if you do break that, they will shut you down instantly. And, the city really doesn't have to even worry with that because they will come in and they will literally tape your door shut and say that's it.
Gotcha. Any other members of council, any
Yeah,
questions?
I have a
Yes, Mr.
question.
Miller.
So what's in it for the town of Blackstone?
Well, your tax revenue will stay here, for one, because these places are growing throughout the state. And, we do a lot with the community as well. It's just something we've always done. We do a lot in Emporia, other locations. But in the town of Blackstone, like I said, this is a fun, safe, friendly place where people can get together and go in and play games for an hour and go back home. Or somebody might travel in from Cambridge and say, I want to play games for a little while. They might play games for a little while, then go down here and eat at Cornerstone. Or go shop at the shops on Main Street, which people will come from other locations, to do that as it's growing.
Ms. Jones.
How about your hours of the hours from Monday through Friday?
We discussed that we would do, I think 8 a.m. is what we came up with, is the opening time, which we also said we would do whatever the businesses adjoining to us. So if they open up at 9 o'clock, we'll probably do 9 o'clock as well. Whatever everybody does next to us. But 8 o'clock's the earliest and 12 o'clock is the latest that we can stay open.
So that's going to be every day or just the weekends?
Yes,
at
ma'am,
12?
every day.
Every
Yes,
day?
Sundays, you can be open on Sunday?
Yes, as long as the city's fine, or town's fine with that.
It's listed as a conditional use. What, can you just explain how that conditional use would be?
Town manager's well versed in that.
The town zoning ordinance, like virtually every other in the state of Virginia, has use by right, and they have use by conditional use or use by special exception. I think the term is actually in our zoning ordinance is special exception. Use by right would be the vape shop. It would be a grocery store, a drugstore, those kinds of things in a retail setting. This is something different because it's not addressed anywhere in our ordinance, and whenever we have an item that's not addressed, we typically will do a text amendment. We may even potentially do text amendments when something is an oversight or something is so obvious. But this was not the case with this. A conditional use permit would be a permit issued by the town, the zoning administrator, after approval by council, and it would have certain things. And then the conditions that have been discussed were closing at midnight and then having security on Friday and Saturday nights. That he would be required. I think it was actually even police security that he would be required. So I think there are a couple items that would be part of the permit, and in the event of default or the event of failure to provide those things or staying open after 12, or if any of the games are found to be illegal. Now, I've met with the Commonwealth's attorney, and she didn't give me an opinion. She just said, we'll just have to wait and see what these machines are and take a look at them, and then I'll determine whether they're satisfactory or not. So she didn't give me a strict, this one is okay, this one's not okay, this one's okay, this one's not. She just said, we'll just have to make a determination once they're open.
But she's probably not qualified to make the determination. That would probably fall upon the state that
Maybe state
inspects these
police or something
facilities,
like
right?
that, right. So the conditional use permit can be revoked. One of the conditions you can put on is a time limit, and I think that's an effective tool that I think the mayor has been involved with more than once. And
6-month review.
6-month reviews, year review. I think we've got a facility that's up for a 2-year review. Or
Passed.
should have been done, yeah, early in the summer or late in the spring. So we've got some tools to work with. Now, I will say the SB district is the specialized business district that was created for adult activities like tattoo parlors, massage parlors, X-rated video stores, all those kinds of things, because I think the town could not outlaw certain adult uses, but they certainly wanted to make sure they could restrict the location so they weren't downtown and that sort of thing.
We had one come downtown, and when it closed, council decided to try to make sure that didn't happen
You
again.
remember the history more, but this SB district, again, is just the 2 shopping centers, and they're specifically there for retail activities, but they also permit certain adult activities. That explain it?
Members of council, what's your pleasure on the text amendment? You can approve the text amendment and then consider Mr. Short's request, or you can say no to the text amendment. Yes, Mrs. Bennell?
May I ask a question?
Quickly, yes.
From North Carolina. How many businesses like this do you own?
4.
You own 4. And I'm just curious about your data. How many losses do you need to have to make a profit?
I do not keep up with that.
And on the
So you don't have the data for how many wins are necessary for a payout versus how many losses?
Depends on what they're betting. How much they're betting.
Can I ask what the profit is?
That's kind of a private matter.
That would be proprietary. That would be proprietary. That would be
That's-
proprietary. Thank you, Mr. Short. Thank you, Ms. Bennell. You can stand by if you like. Any other questions from the members of council?
Will a winner be able to get cash, or is it just
Yes, sir.
product? It is cash for product.
Any other questions? Council speak with their motions.
We had, Tom and I discussed earlier as we were walking over from Rotary, and granted it's not in town, but what does the Eagles Lodge I mean, is gambling already in Blackstone and I've never been in there, I don't have a clue
Yes,
what
yes,
it
it
consists
is.
of or what?
There's gambling all over this community. There might even be some on golf courses, I've been told. I mean, yeah, I've been told.
But remember, this is not considered gambling by state law.
By state law.
This is,
But just to be clear, Mr. Short, I want to be sure that if I walk in there, my wife's shopping, I'm like, I'm going to kill an hour at Food she's a Food Lion, I'm going to kill an hour. Can I go in there and say, I got $100 in my wallet, I got 10 tens, I'm going to put $10 down with a chance to win more than $10. Can that happen lawfully in your establishment?
yes.
Well, for a lot of folks, that's gambling. I mean, it may not be illegal gambling by the state, but as far as if I can go in there and put money down and either lose that money or get more in everyday terms, that's gambling. Same as a lottery. I'm not picking on you. Same as bingo. I pay for a bingo card and I lose. Guess what? I lost my $1. I see a question in the back. Yes.
It's a small community. We got to realize things is changing a lot. And we're staying so far behind. On certain businesses, we agree so they can come to this town and do certain businesses, it's fine. But certain other businesses, we jump to conclusion, no, we can't do it. That's what happened with the armory. We're in the same predicament. A man want to do a business there, everybody say no. Now y'all town still stuck with the armory. Sometimes you got to open your eyes, some of the things come out new. Things are changing.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm going to close the public hearing on the text amendment. Members of council, what's your pleasure? And you don't have to take action. You can vote to approve it. You can vote to study it. What was the committee's recommendation? The planning commission recommended unanimously to approve it with the conditions.
With the conditions, but I don't think the 6-month review or a year review was necessarily one of the conditions, but it was security. Friday, Saturday nights, and closing at midnight.
But that's not this issue that that's the next.
Planning Commission recommended approving this text amendment first. They did. But I would, well, I'm a big believer in 6-month review. When you're going in new ground, if this council decides to do that, with the conditional use permit, you hold a lot of authority, and I would urge you to exercise it. Members of council, what's your pleasure? We have a long agenda tonight.
I agree that we approve it with a 6-month review.
All right, we're talking about the zoning amendment now, so you've been in favor of amending the zoning to allow a venture like his.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Miller has moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Morgan has seconded. Any further discussion? This is just this is saying that if you want to do what he's proposing to do, you can do it, but you got to come before this body and the people and get a conditional use permit. He has not been approved yet. This is the zoning ordinance. All in favor say aye. Of the motion to amend the zoning ordinance. I'll do a roll call vote. Whose night is it tonight? Start with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-2, 5-2? All right, 5-2. Now, so we've changed the zoning ordinance. Now, the next public hearing tonight, we've pretty much had. It is Ryan Short to operate Players Vape. It's between Food Lion and the Shul Furniture Building, generally speaking, at the shopping center. We need to have the formality of a hearing. Is anyone here tonight that has not spoken that would like to speak against a specific proposal by Mr. Ryan Short? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Questions from council?
Is there nicotine in the vape?
Some have nicotine in the vape, yes, ma'am. That also would not be allowed inside the building, even though it is being sold there.
The nicotine products would not?
Yes, ma'am. Any of the products. Yes, ma'am.
No vaping inside?
Yes, ma'am. Nothing inside. The building is going to have work done to it, so, want to make sure that it stays clean and stays appropriate.
Would you be opposed to earlier than midnight? Because personally, I think midnight just may be a tad bit too late for Blackstone, just because Blackstone, and I agree with Peanut that, yes, we need to change with times,
Right.
but slowly at times, too. Everything's closed by 10,
What time was Food Lion close out there, 10 or 11?
11, I believe.
Food Lion closed at 11.
Yeah.
And that's what we discussed this at the last meeting, and I had mentioned that we were trying to do whatever other businesses were doing.
Yeah.
And I think that we had looked into Walmart, maybe it's 12 on the weekends, is that correct?
I
Or
think we did.
12 on the weekends and maybe 11 during the week. And, we were trying to just be kind
I
of the
just know
same.
personally, if you go through Blackstone at 11 o'clock, any night of the week, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, during the week, it's dead. So really, I feel like it's
not
really
always.
a purpose for that extra hour,
Right.
just for, in case someone
Not
may want
always.
to
Yeah,
get
I
in
mean,
mischief.
no, we're completely fine with that, if that.
Well, this is, Mr. Mitchell, we are discussing, anything's on the table. This council has the authority to reject him, to approve him and let him do whatever he wants, or to say, we're going to approve you, but we're going to have conditions. And the planning commission did recommend conditions. I would submit to you personally, as someone who believes in fairness, that most businesses, a lot of businesses in Blackstone that sell cigarettes and sell alcohol operate on Sunday. He's already saying no alcohol is allowed in his place, which But again, council holds the cards. What is council's pleasure? You can make, you could do a 3-month review if you wanted.
And what will your review consist of? You're not going to go ask.
We would ask tonight for Chief Kuzmak, his staff, to make a log of the police complaints.
Okay.
I'd be curious, I hate to ask a question like this because I'm superstitious, but have you had any armed robbery attempts at your employer establishment?
No, sir.
Have you had a lot of police, well, that's fine, that's good enough.
No
Yeah.
police
Right.
calls or no problems.
Just to piggyback off a previous issue, Clay's assisted living will be an issue in a few weeks at a special meeting. I have asked Chief Kuzmak to compile data on that facility, because I think before we have a hearing on someone's future, we need to have facts.
Correct.
And we would certainly gather facts during the review period.
And like I probably missed this fact of it, but one of the other security things we have are the doors. When it becomes dark at night, the doors are locked. In order to come into the facility, you can't come up to the door wearing a hood or with your body disguised because you'll be buzzed in. These doors are also fire safe, so you can leave them at any time. But in order to get in, so to get in, you have to be buzzed in. And to be buzzed in, the camera will be looking at you and recording you at the same time.
Very good.
So there's no vaping going on at all inside the building?
That's right.
You're just selling the products and
Yes,
the,
sir.
Okay. Okay, to make a little more, okay. I was thinking that vapor was gonna be going on.
No, ma'am. Just
Okay.
because certain
Okay.
people don't prefer it, to be around it. It's kind of like cigarettes, a lot of people don't like someone standing right outside of the door smoking a cigarette when you're going to eat dinner, but
I know in that location he's moving to, Luxury Nails is right beside him, and you can smell it next door. You can smell the nails, so.
Right.
Yeah, I think it is a nuisance having smells like that, yes. So I do agree with the fact that it's not allowed within the building.
Not trying to hurry up anybody, but it's 7:30. We're on issue number 1 of about 45 tonight. Members of council, what's your pleasure? Council speak through their motion. If you would stand and state your name, please, so we can hear you. Yes.
My name is Liz Kopchak, and I actually live on that area. And at your other locations, do you have people like hanging out in the parking lot like late at night?
no, ma'am.
You do not?
No, Lorder, it's kind of the same as any business would have. Your customers, of course, can park there and come in. I'm not sure what Food Lion's rules are on that, but no, we would not allow people just to sit outside and drink alcohol because we're an alcohol-free, drug-free zone, so we don't want people to go out to their cars, drink, and then come back in.
Okay, what about music? Are you gonna have music in the building?
No, ma'am. It's completely silent. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good questions. A lot of good questions, good points tonight. I see one more hand on the back row. I'm sorry. I got to put my new glasses on. The clerk wants me to wear it at all times. Yes, sir. Who are you?
My name's Randy Gibb. Do you sell anything besides vape products?
No, sir.
Such as other pipes or paraphernalia or anything like that, or just vape products?
Yes, sir. Just vape. Yes, sir.
It's a good question, because we do have a local gas station that sells quite a bit of paraphernalia.
No,
But you can also ssmoke tobacco in it. That's the way the law,
So that is a very good question.
What is council's pleasure? Do you want to table this? Do you want to take more time to think about it? What do you want? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we take a little more time and think about it.
How would you like to maybe? I'm thinking of calling a special meeting just to review the other facility, Clay's Assisted Living. I was thinking early September. Maybe we could have those two issues on that agenda.
I think Mr. Miller is on vacation. I think.
I'm on vacation. I'll be back the 10th of September.
All right, we will plan a meeting somewhere between the 10th and the 20th. And, well, let's go ahead and do it now while we have the public here. How is the Wednesday the 12th or Tuesday the 11th? Anybody got conflict on Tuesday the 11th? Tuesday, September 11th. I know that's a date that everybody, hard to forget that date. You will not be here? How about on the 12th?
I'll be back the evening.
All right, how about Monday the 10th?
I'm not here on the 10th.
Okay. All right, last call. How about Thursday the 13th? Well, let me back up. How about next Wednesday the 5th?
I won't be here the 5th.
Okay. We won't have enough time to advertise. Well, we've already had the advertised public hearing.
What's going to change?
But we have to advertise for a public hearing
See why
on
we can't
Clay's.
get rid of it tonight.
I'm talking about to get more
You
information.
can substitute motion to do it.
I don't know.
But I'd like to make a substitute motion that we get rid of it tonight instead of prolonging it.
Okay, then what would your motion, well, you can, right, your motion was made. Well, who,
I did.
did anyone second Ms. Thompson's motion? Okay, so the floor,
No.
so you want to remove that motion? The floor is open for a new motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and put this motion on the floor and get rid of it tonight.
In which direction would you like the council to go? Do you want to approve the request with a review period, or would you like to,
I'd like to approve the request with a review period,
how long would you like the review period to be?
3 months.
A 90-day review, okay?
Other conditions that were passed on by
11
the planning
p.m.
commission were security on Friday and Saturday night, and the planning commission also voted that it would be a midnight closing. But if they're willing to adjust that, council, this is not a conditional rezoning, so you do have the ability to change properties or to modify conditions between Planning Commission in downtown.
What about 11 p.m.?
Pardon?
11 p.m.?
Can you live with 11 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
All right, so
What happened to Ms. Thompson's motion?
she removed it from the
She
floor
removed the
because we're
motion.
having a hard time scheduling to meet the requirements, and we want to have all 7 council members here. I don't ever leave Blackstone, so I'm pretty much always here, but that's all right. Mr. Miller has made a motion to approve the request with a 90-day review period, closing at 11 p.m. The facility will provide security on Fridays and Saturdays. Is there a second to Mr. Miller's motion?
Second.
Ms. Thompson has seconded the motion. Is there a question? The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? We will have a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller.
No.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, was that 5-2?
Did you say no, Ms. Jones?
Yes, yes.
Okay, motion carried 5-2. So we will please put on the docket 3 months from tonight, which is October, November, December. The third Monday in December, we will have a review, a discussion on
We probably won't open until October,
oh,
just because we have to.
90 days from opening.
Opening.
So if the clerk, if you'll notify when you open, we'll check and go 90 days from there. Thank you, Mr. Short, and thank the public for speaking. All righty. Moving right along, we have minutes from the last few meetings, and here's Madam Clerk's planner. Members of council, what's your pleasure? The minutes are in your packet.
I move to dispense with the reading for the joint public hearing for July 2nd and the regular council meeting for July 16th. Approved.
All right, is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have several visitors who signed up recently. I want to recognize one who's from out of state who wants to speak tonight. I was told Brenda Ray White was going to come to the podium tonight. Is Miss White here? Yes. Hello, Brenda. And then Bobby Thomas is on deck, followed by John Bird in the brew house. And then anyone else who wants to speak will recognize you when you raise your hand. Brenda White. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm here because I was here back in June as far as the issue with my property and the taxes. And I felt that I should have been reimbursed the entire amount because the taxes were paid and there was no collection from Mr. Elliott. He did not collect anything at all. I paid him the $468.60 because it was requested that I do that. It was noted and found that there was an error in sending me the notice for my taxes. I did not receive the notice. It went to the wrong address, and it was noted that they received, that it was sent to the wrong address. And because of that, and the taxes being paid in full, I feel that I should have been reimbursed the entire amount back because it never should have been sent.
Members of council, this is an issue that you may have heard about. There were 3 4-3 roll calls back in June, which led to a stalemate. And then the new council, before Mr. Morgan got on here, I believe the council voted to contribute 175 of the to reimburse 175 of the 468 in legal fees. That motion carried 7-0, which means if anybody tonight would like to make any kind of new motion, because everybody was in the affirmative, you're allowed to make a motion if you wish to. But what you've heard,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to get this off the record. I'd like to make a motion that we pay her entire money, get this off the record.
okay, to reimburse the entire 468.
She already has 175. I'd like to make a motion that we pay her the rest of her money, since it was really, I'd say it was really a mistake that that was made. So in order to get the hard feelings off, I recommend that we pay her the rest of her money.
Ms. Jones, you've seconded that motion.
Motion.
And I agree with you that it was a mistake made, but it was a mistake made on both sides of the party. If you change an address, that address it's your responsibility as a property owner to notify them of that address change.
My address never changed. They admitted that they sent it to the wrong address.
Your taxes all along, or the notice that it was being sent to collections?
The notice was sent to the wrong.
They weren't paid beforehand, though. That's where, how are we to tell John Smith down the street that haven't paid their taxes? it's just hard. And I told you before, I'd like to be kind-hearted, and that's why I made it. I made the
Mr.
motion
Nash,
originally.
let me explain this to you. I receive an electric bill from Blackstone every month, and it comes to the same address in Greensboro. It has not changed.
Did your tax bill, though, prior to the late notice, where did your tax bill sent to?
The same address in
So
Greensboro.
you received your tax bills?
No, I did not receive that notice. But
Correct.
I had an
The
agreement.
late notice.
That late notice, yes, before it was put in the paper. I did not know anything about it until a friend of mine, a relative, sent me the notice saying, this is, that's right. That's the only way that I knew. Had I known that now, mind you, as my daughter came back in June, I was out sick, but my mail was picked up every week. And had I gotten it, it would have been noted and it would have been paid. I did not receive it. And errors happened. Brittany and the manager admitted that they made a mistake. I understand that. And I'm fine with that. But Mr. Elliott did not receive, he did not collect anything. That's my issue. The only thing he did was post it in the paper here for $18.68. That's all Mr. Elliott did. He did not collect the dime.
And we heard in the previous council did hear testimony in June about, you've had some very serious health issues, and I'm glad you're doing better, by the way.
Thank you so much.
And her daughter, Latia Boney, came here in June, so there were some extenuating circumstances on why the taxes were late being paid.
Yes.
If I'm correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And when we learned of that, I came in and I paid them in full, in cash.
And one of the things I asked for, and I don't know if we can dictate it, but to me, we send certified letters for people who need to cut their grass. We certainly should send certified letters, as should Mr. Elliott, when people are fixing to have a sale on their property. I think in breaking news, I love all our local postal people are awesome, but anything that goes through Sanston or Richmond, good luck with that. We have a motion that's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? This is to reimburse the remaining, take the $468 minus $175, that amount would be paid to Ms. Brenda Ray White. Any further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 6-1. Thank you, Ms. White.
Thank you.
Thank you for your perseverance. And please be safe going home. Folks, I get accused of moving fast. I'm going to start rolling here now. Our second visitor is Bobby Thomas of the Wine Festival, the Wine and Beer Festival. Could we have a little preview tonight?
Good evening. I'm going to announce the fact this is the 6th annual Blackstone Wine and Beer Festival. It's going to be held October 27th. And I'd like to present to council, if you could waive the banner fee for that event, and also allow us to be able to close North High Street for that event on October
I
27th.
move to approve of the banner to be hung. Which location? We have the two locations.
I'm talking to Jennifer. Once the fire banner goes down, fire prevention banner, we'll put it right there.
Approve banner and closing of the street in front of the Armory.
Ms. Hasbrook is second Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Bobby, and thanks for everything you do. That's a nice event, a very nice event, first class. Our next scheduled visitor is John Byrd of the Virginia Defense Force. I believe he wants to speak to us about
Sir, with your permission, I'd like for the Inspector General to accompany me to the podium.
Permission granted. My goodness. What have we done wrong?
Nothing yet, sir. I appreciate the council's time and the citizens of Blackstone. Just want to give an update of what the Defense Force is and who we are. We are a volunteer organization that serve directly under the Adjutant General with the National Guard. We get called up for state active duty. We are strictly volunteer. The only time we do get paid is if an individual is called for state active duty. We are in the process now working with Town of Blackstone Fire Department, Crew Fire Department, and also Nottoway County, and doing what we call a field training exercise in November. This exercise will entail Town of Blackstone Firehouse, Town of Crew Firehouse, and a third location located within the county. We'll do what we call a point of distribution. This could be for food, water, any items in a state of emergency. A lot of our personnel are trained emergency management specialists. And we have been given directives by our commanding general to give support to civil authority, which would include town of Blackstone, Nottaway County, town of Crewe, town of Burkeville, any locality within the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Okay.
That's our training focus right now. We currently train 4 weekends a month at Fort Pickett, where we have in excess of 150 personnel coming, actually staying at Fort Pickett and coming into town of Blackstone, gas, food, fuel.
4 times a month?
4 times a year.
I'm sorry, okay, that's
Yes.
great.
Our current force strength is a little in excess of 350 personnel. We've been given directives to go to 750 personnel. And talking with the town of Blackstone chief and his operation officer, they have their annual fund drive coming up the 15th of September. We have gotten approval to have 15 of our personnel plus a communications platform to support this function. We'll help with perimeter security, ingress, egress. If needed, we can work with the chief of police, shoulder to shoulder, and have our personnel support this function.
What's the date in November? You got a date?
First weekend in November.
Okay.
The timeline, what we're looking at right now is support the function for Blackstone's exercise the 15th of September.
Do you need any support from the council or any permission?
Sir, I'm doing it strictly as a courtesy to council.
We appreciate it.
And the citizens of Blackstone. We don't want to leave anybody out of the loop, trying to keep everybody informed.
Absolutely.
We're working with Deon Tomer, the fire chief. We've got a meeting with the operations officer with the fire department tonight to get a memorandum of understanding signed. That way, it's just a legal document, that keeps everybody safe.
Right.
But we're just trying, the reason, one of my bosses, Colonel Owens, we're here to just inform council. We're not here to take over. We are here strictly in support. That is all.
We appreciate that.
And
Any questions of the gentleman, of the Virginia Defense Force? Chief Tomer.
The point of distribution for the November event is going to be at the fire station, and then since it is town property, it probably should have approval.
Well, you as chief have no objection. You're participating in it. I'd entertain a motion, members of council, to support the venture.
Second.
Councilman Wilkinson has moved. Council President Thompson is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you for your time, sir.
That's a good drill. We came close after Hurricane Isabel to needing something like that back in 2003. That was close. Our last scheduled visit, but we're going to recognize others. The Brew House event, which I believe is called Rocktoberfest. And I've heard mixed dates. The first date I heard was on Saturday, October 27th, and now someone's saying Sunday, October 28th. What's the date?
I have it as Sunday, October 28th.
Okay.
So
Sunday in the town square.
I don't make the rules.
Go ahead, sir.
I apologize. Yeah, Sunday to town square. I think we're looking for a good Sunday afternoon, the 28th. Looks like it's 4 to 10 p.m. I know that this is a continuation of last month's meeting. I know that we were supposed to present it then, but I didn't have all the information.
That's okay.
So thank you for allowing me to
Just
be
for the
here.
clerk's benefit, your name and the facility you're with.
My name is Christopher Page. I'm the kitchen manager at the Brew House. I'm
Very
also
good.
the DJ for the karaoke events.
Okay.
What they're looking to do is bring economic prosperity down to downtown by doing events that'll bring people down and spend money. We already have the karaoke event that was approved. We're looking to do the Rocktoberfest. It's pretty much a music festival featuring the Sean Peace Band. It's a popular band that plays at the Brew House. And also another band called Poisonous Cure. Sean Peace is a cover artist with his own work, as well as recently toured all over the U.S. and released his own CD. And Poisonous Cure is a fun Motley Crue and Poison cover band that dresses the part of Motley Crue and gives a great performance. The event will have Halloween themes and open to all ages as well. And we're
Main question I have for you, I've read the packet, and I know members of council do too. This is going to be very similar to what DBI used to do. You're going to be selling beer and alcohol with a limit of 5 per person, isn't that right?
That's correct. Pretty much the same setup as the karaoke contest, where we have our own security. We'll be selling food and alcohol, checking IDs. People with who are over 21 will get a wristband. People who aren't will get an X on their hand. Each person will be able to allow 5 beer and wine tickets. ABC rules and requirements will be adhered to. Obviously, excuse me, I apologize. The health department for food will follow all those regulations, get the special permits for that, insurance, security, have Blackstone PD out there as well, just like the karaoke event. It's pretty much the same thing, just a different date, a different thing to celebrate, a way to bring the community.
But it is Sunday, October 28th from 4 to 10?
4 to 10, yes, sir.
Is there an admission charge?
No, it's free to the public.
Okay.
Just like the karaoke event as well. I mean, the main goal here is to get people downtown.
It is. I just feel bad for y'all in the bands because the problem is, as far as other establishments, are closed on Sunday from 4 to 10. That's the only thing. I've heard great things about the cover band. I just wish it was on the day before.
Well, the day before is the Wine and Beer Festival.
I thought, which ends at 6, so that'd be a natural flow. Go to the Wine and Beer Festival and then go to the concert. But anyway, we can't control that. I was hoping for a big. That's my 50th birthday weekend for the record. Members of council, what's your pleasure? Yes.
Excuse me 1 second, I apologize.
I thought I read somewhere admission was charged. That's
what I thought.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that that's
which is not unlike the concerts in the square.
That would be a little bit different. This is news to me. You know, I apologize for that.
That's okay.
It looks like they are going to be selling tickets to this particular event.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure what the cost is.
That would not be a first.
No, but with that, can we get the concrete details and have it at our meeting that we're supposed to be? Because I don't want to wait until the regular September meeting, but didn't you say we're meeting prior?
I'd like to try to schedule a meeting to discuss the Clay's Assisted Living Facility, just for it's a review that was supposed to occur in February, and we didn't do it, and that's on me.
So,
but I feel like things are you're kind of rushing this a little bit, and there's some things maybe we could have a meeting in early or mid-September, and would that be too late for you?
I think so. I think that's one of the reasons why we're here. I remember at the last meeting we had discussed, we'll approve that one based on how the karaoke event goes. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, these things take planning.
You got to book bands, I know, yeah.
Bands.
Right.
If you can actually give me a few minutes, I can go back and just double check. They've got all this planned out. I knew more about the karaoke event because that's my event.
Right. Why don't we do that? We're going to be here. I guarantee we're going to be here a while. So
Okay.
take your time.
It looks like it.
We're going to be here.
If we could put this on the table, I'm going to
Yes.
head back over. I'm going to have a quick meeting with them just to make sure I have all the
That's
details.
fine. That's fine.
And we'll come
And
back to
ask, is it possible for Saturday?
For
Just
Saturday.
10 o'clock on a Sunday evening when people are getting ready for the work week in school.
And I agree with you. Just like we normally close at 9 on Sunday, so if the Beer and Wine Festival is that day, it may be a good opportunity to
see
do
if
that.
it's
It
a
might actually
possibility.
benefit us and everybody else as well.
All right.
So I'll chat with them on that.
All right, that's fine. Like I said, when you come back, just shoot your hand up, and we'll try to recognize you and resume. That is all the scheduled visits we had. I know there's several folks who want to speak and address council. I see Mr. Peanut Johnson. Who wants to be next after Peanut? And I have a lady on deck from Chesterfield.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm here about the parking on Nottoway Avenue. I did not request for permanent parking on Nottoway Avenue. I requested if I had a party or something, a gathering at my house, would the parking be okay? I never came up here and said, I want parking permanent on Nottoway Avenue.
So you're saying if someone's having a special event, can people park on both sides of the street?
Not both sides.
Just one side?
Yeah.
We requested for VDOT's system. What did they say?
VDOT said it was not appropriate for permanent on-street parking. I didn't have.
But I mean, just like, well.
And I been over a year ago, and I gave a couple of events, and I had 15 cars all the way down on that side of the road. No problem at all.
The sight distance is good. That's a straight shot.
Yeah,
The sight
so,
distance is good.
I mean, I just wanted to clarify that.
All right.
Second thing, town council members, well, you all is new, but the last said whenever something comes up about voting on something, they always say a conflict of interest. A lot of people's when something that they don't want to, I guess, really be involved. But when you say a conflict of interest, and you don't want to vote on stuff, but when it comes to a contract from the town, that's not a conflict of interest. Town council members should not be able to get a contract through the town. That's not fair to the citizens. The reason why I'm saying this is because if a person gets the contract through the town and I'm putting in the bid, we know that we might feel that the bid's not going right because we feel that it might be special such a stance because
I'd
it's
like-
big.
Can Mr. Nash respond?
This is in
Yeah,
lieu.
I'm not-
This is in-
Hold
I'm
on,
speaking.
hold on.
This is in lieu of me,
Wait,
obviously.
he had named me names.
I did not name his name.
Let's let Mr. Nash, let Mr. Johnson finish. I promise you getting first crack.
He said I could talk. I got the floor. He's referring to the Tavern, Armory, and Carriage Museum. If there was a conflict of interest, number one, they're sealed bids. If there was a conflict of interest, my bid was $7,000 plus or minus. The next closest bid was $14,000. If there was a conflict of interest, I would have bid it much closer to that $14,000. I can guarantee you that.
What I'm saying, as town council members, they should be exempt for putting in bids. If you look at other town council things, they'll say, well, like in Richmond, when they had the thing, they said, well, town council members cannot participate in bidding on jobs for the town, for the city, because it causes a conflict of interest.
We're bound, the main thing, Mr. Johnson, is that what the state law is, and I don't know. Colonel Tom?
Here's the actual regulation, the Virginia Conflict of Interest Acts, and you are correct with the exception that there are exceptions. Technically, town councilman or the mayor should not be able to enter in a contract with the town. However, there are exceptions. One exception is sealed bids. Another exception is the newspaper, that we could put ads in the newspaper because we don't have anywhere else to put them.
Right.
So there are exceptions to the policy, and if you want to read them.
Now, I want to read about it and saying it's always an
But
exception
he-
to a policy, but what I'm saying is you also can make a rule that says it can't happen either. But it just makes things fair because just like with Bobby thing, I mean, people's heard different stories behind that. I mean, when he put this bid in, you know, some people say it won't fail. And that's, I'm not the only one. Some town council members have been approached by this. That's not fair.
But what you're saying is maybe even whatever the law is, you're saying that officials should go beyond the law. That's your opinion.
Not going beyond the law.
So let's charge the taxpayer more money. I mean, I'll mention the fire department. We're voting on that tonight. Typically, the fire department, I have cut grass for them for years. And whatever I get paid for by them.
I didn't call your name.
I'm speaking. Whatever I'm speaking.
Let Mr. Nash finish.
Whatever I get paid for by the fire department goes back to donations. The building behind the fire department, I never mention it, but guess who built that? I paid for that to be built in memory of Jimmy Ragsdale. So I give it to the community.
I did not call your name, Eric.
I know who you're referencing.
I did not call.
I was given prior knowledge of this. So
Yeah, Philip. I had told Philip in the pot and gave you some little prior knowledge or something.
Well, here's the thing. The main thing.
How we do?
Councilman Wilkerson has mentioned the state law. And could we just ask attorney? We got that at a VML conference we went to last month, and they had a great program, and that was one of the topics they covered. Just maybe if you could prepare a report. Is what Colonel Tom's saying sound right to you as far as what the law is? Sealed bids are an exception?
Yes, but I'll be glad to look into it further and prepare a formal written report about what all the exceptions.
Right, because
can I pay for that $150 an hour just so because obviously we're going to accrue more costs now because of this.
Well, that would be. You know what? Let's let council. If you don't feel comfortable directing the town attorney, then that's fine.
I'd rather the attorney go for it.
Okay.
And I'm serious. I'd pay for it just to.
That's my generous of you. That's generous of you.
I will. Most definitely.
All right.
This thing really stepped on some toes.
Very much so.
Well, Mr. Nash is not the only one in business here. I mean, but we thank you. Anything else? Do we ever get straight with him on the barbecue situation? Okay. Just want to make sure because that was kind of left hanging from the last meeting.
They've been very taken care of.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our next speaker is a lady from Chesterfield. And I want to announce to everybody here, this is a speaker who is going to speak on the cemetery. I want to assure everybody here tonight, no vote will be taken on the cemetery tonight. The Buildings and Properties and Cemetery Committee, chaired by Ms. Hasbrook, is going to begin to revise and start from scratch on the rules for the cemetery. But I know you drove from Chesterfield. We want to hear if you state your name and for the record and all that good stuff.
Mayor and Town Council and residents, thank you for allowing me to address my concerns over the Lakeview Cemetery policy. My name is Karen Lale. My parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins are all buried in Lakeview. When my cousin Steve recently received a letter addressed to whom it may concern from the Blackstone Town Manager outlining the changes to the Lakeview Cemetery policy, he called me to see if I had received the letter. I hadn't received the letter. My sister and several of my cousins, whose parents are also buried in Lakeview, did not receive a letter either. They still haven't received letters. Lakeview Cemetery property owners have not all been notified of the policy changes because the town has not kept legible records. I own 2 plots in the cemetery. I had to call town office. They didn't send me a letter because they couldn't read my information in the cemetery logs. I had to give them my address in order to get a copy of the letter. So why am I here? And why is this so important to me? Let me see if I can do this without crying.
It's okay.
Almost 27 years ago, my mother was dying of breast cancer, and I promised her that I would keep flowers on her grave. I have kept that promise. I make and change the floral arrangements out several times a year on days that are important to my family. There has been a floral arrangement on her grave every single day. Yes, I said there have been flowers on my mother and now my father's grave. I had them on the headstone every single day for almost 27 years. So y'all can see why I'm so passionate about this.
Absolutely.
All I'm asking for is to be allowed to continue to keep flowers on the headstone of their grave year-round. I'm not asking for anything that would cost the town of Blackstone any money or that would require any maintenance at all to the grave. I know that you all have received a letter from my sister. So on behalf of my sister, Julie Lale Porter, and my cousins, Deborah Hartz and Steve Belvin, who could not be here tonight, and my cousins, Billy and Linda Strickland, who are here with me tonight, we are asking that the Lakeview Cemetery policy permit us to keep our flowers on our parents' graves year-round. For me, I promised my dying mother, and I need to be able to keep that promise. We would like to all be notified when this is settled, when you guys have figured out what exactly you're going to do. In the meantime, I'm going to ask, please don't remove the flowers that are on the headstone of my mother and father's grave, like that was stated in that letter. They were going to take everything off on September 1st. And I just want to thank everybody for their time.
We thank you.
I think you'll hear from a committee report from Ms. Hasbrook's committee that all that has been put on hold.
Okay.
And I believe what you're going to hear, but we're going to meet to get a definite policy that you'll be allowed year-round flowers on top of your grave in urns or pots next door, next to your stone, and flags. But on March 1, one time a year, we'll do a clean slate.
That
So
makes
it'll
sense,
be
because
known
there's some
one
stuff
time.
that needs to be
But
cleaned
it's,
up.
don't think September 1st that the town staff's going to
Well, I
take
just put
everything.
flowers on it a week or so ago.
Keep
on-
them, you're fine. I think
on
Ms. Hasbrook
birthdays,
will come
so,
back
yeah.
with some
But
new
I do
policies.
think council needs to make a motion tonight to rescind that September 1st deadline. To
So moved.
formalize it and
Right.
make sure-
Mr. Nash has moved to rescind the September 1st flower removal deadline. I heard a second to my left. Christine Hasbrook is second. Any further discussion?
This just puts everybody at ease,
It
because during the
does.
committee, obviously, not everybody knows about it, but yes, we are in the works for it, so.
There was a lot of concern on some of my family members' side that they didn't have legible logs. either
And that's
for
because of the history.
cemetery.
It's not anything due to recent town staff. It's just the cemetery's so old and the history around the 30s or so it's just, that's where it starts getting. But we thank you. There's a motion on the floor to, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Flowers are fine. And I
Thank you for
promise
your
you this
time.
committee, I guarantee this committee's gonna come up with a really good policy. Very,
Thank you.
very
Thank you
encouraged.
for your time.
I know that, I see another hand. I see, yes, he's back for the Rocktoberfest. What is the date?
Okay. Thank you. All right, first I want to say, I didn't have all the information. I apologize for that.
You do now.
I just hadn't had an opportunity to meet with them. It is scheduled for Sunday, October 28th.
Okay, from 4 to 10?
For 4 to 10. However, if council's held up on that, we're willing to change it as long as council is okay with a day, Monday through Saturday that week. It's getting close to Halloween, and we have to change both bands because they're both booked for Sunday. We have to get them to work together and find a date that's good for them. We're going to try to do Saturday because, as you say, that would be most beneficial to the downtown area.
Well, we could give you a tentative nod of approval tonight, just that we in concept support it, but we would need, at some point, maybe the special meeting we're gonna have on Clays to have the firm date and to vote on, because the town has to waive the noise ordinance. It's,
I agree, and that's what they asked me for. I apologize. For just a conditional yes, so that we can get those things booked, try to get the bands rebooked. If we do it Saturday, they were saying we may need a road blocked off this time then, since there's going to be so many people downtown for the Beer and Wine Festival and for that. So we could talk about that at the next meeting. It might have to be Broad and Elm, which is going to cover.
we'll get into the X's and O's with
Yeah, on
at the
that.
next meeting, but right now, does the council feel comfortable with him proceeding? Well, I see a hand, Bobby Thomas, the Wine Festival organizer.
Just want to mention, don't want to take away something, but when you start looking at, Wine and Beer Festival and this, you're looking at 2 events, and
That's
with
gotta happen.
4 to 10, that's interfering with our event to raise money. Brew House is also going to be there at our event. They're not going to have enough staff to be able to man our.
They bring the craft beers, I forgot about that. Well, maybe, he also talked about other, like a weeknight, another night.
Change the 6 to 10 on Saturday, then that
Yeah, 6 to 10
wouldn't
would
be
be
an issue.
fine.
I think I appreciate that feedback, and it does sound correct. You're talking about the Blackstone PD may not have enough manpower
No.
to handle that? Or
The brew house is gonna be at the Wine and Beer Festival.
They're a very busy vendor at the Wine and Beer Festival.
Yeah, we definitely are. Our staffing at that time is going to be almost double or triple what we have now because we're about to open Farmville. So we're going to have plenty of people on staff that we could actually handle it. When it comes to security, if Blackstone PD is overworked that day, we can always bring in the sheriff or crew or somebody like that. We could look at another date like Friday or something like that, but I just think it would benefit downtown the most if it is on Saturday. We don't want to interfere with your event, but I think a 6 to 10 when we're charging people tickets, the show being shortened, we want to
You
get
might
people.
want to go to 6 to 11
Do we
then.
typically have people charge for entry to an event? In the
I remember some of the first concerts there was admission. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was benefiting the
It was
town.
admissions, and they gave you 3 tickets, I think,
Right.
with your admission.
Since admission will be charged, can you guys be responsible for police staffing?
Well, it's just like the karaoke event. We're going to pay for the police staffing already, so the police that will be on.
That's on
site.
September
Porta
22nd.
potties, whatever needs to be. I think if you guys are gonna be making money, the town of Blackstone shouldn't be
Right, so, as we.
bearing the buck.
I agree with you. Just like any event, like the karaoke event, we've already talked to the chief staff. We're gonna pay for that.
You just want to use the public space.
Wanna
You're
use
going to
the
take care of the X's and O's and paying people.
That's right. We're gonna pay everybody that needs to get paid. We're gonna take care of the officers.
I see one question from, yes, Vicky.
I just wanted to make sure I understand, if the concern about having a limited number of tickets that you can buy for alcohol.
I know where you're going, yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna have, I get how it would be a nice little segue to go from one event into the other, but how are you gonna, then that kind of defeats the purpose of having, a limit to what you're gonna drink, because just because it's 2 separate events, if you have people going from one event to the other event, well, then you've been allowed.
You're saying 10 drinks.
10 alcoholic drinks.
If I may.
Well, then we just keep it to Sunday. I mean,
Well, if I may, if that were to happen and we were to book on that date, which would take a lot, we'd have to have 2 bands to be able to reschedule. But if that were to happen, when we serve alcohol, we still have to follow the standards of the state with ABC. We cannot serve somebody who is intoxicated.
Right.
Right.
So at that point, we have to go off of our training and make sure, well, you may have a ticket, but you're intoxicated, we're not gonna serve you. So unfortunately, that would be it.
I'm just wondering if that would potentially set it up for, if you've got somebody who is and you're telling them no. I mean, I understand that can happen either way. I'm just saying it's just something to think about if we're gonna do 2 events, one right after the other, or potentially overlapping.
It'd be nice to have it on another, like I said, I know it's hard, you got things to book. I think council has no objection with the general premise, but let's try to get him on the agenda when we discuss Clay's, and that's gonna be early September, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Is that okay,
We
council?
can just get approval for like that week sometime, we get you a date.
I think you can get a general, I don't think we can actually vote and say we approve until we have a date. But I think you get a general consensus for the most part that.
Yes.
That would be.
You have a good feel for the council, everybody wants it to be a success, and want the wine festival to be a success, and it might be best at separate days, but thank you very much.
We'll look at Friday.
And we'll have the clerk notify the brew house as soon as we set the date for the next meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
One more question.
Yes.
Is council are you guys not wanting it done on Sunday, or is that, what's the concern?
The only thing I mentioned was 10 o'clock on a Sunday evening. That's the only thing but
I want you to have success. I'm gonna just tell you right now, 4 to 10 on a Sunday. And now if it was Motley Crue coming, yeah, then you have a crowd. But a cover band, I just worry, I hate to see you go to that trouble.
I agree with you.
But y'all know better than that's y'all's job, not ours.
I understand. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak tonight? I talked to some of you in the audience that said you wanted to speak, but you don't have to. If not, we're gonna get to the payment of bills. Payment of bills. I'm sorry, fire chief's report, the fire chief, and then the payment of bills. He's got a short report.
Yes, very short. I don't have much to say. We were awarded the forestry grant. We've been waiting a while on that. That was a 50-50 for some small tools and equipment. No town funds will be used for that. That's all out of fire programs match. Within your packet are the bids for a fit test machine that went out for sealed bid. I don't know if you want to address that now before, while I'm here. I believe it's under new.
It is. The fit test machine bids are in your packet, I believe, under,
Unfinished business number
yes,
2.
unfinished number 2. It's $11,306.50, and the town manager is recommending approval. Members of council, if you'd like to, it requires a vote because it's over $10,000. Requires a roll call vote.
Received how many bids?
Two.
They're pretty close, so it's no.
I will remind you that we had $250,000 set aside for the SCBA.
Correct.
Got it right. And so those have been ordered. Those came in at about $229,000.
Explain,
In
that's
addition,
breathing apparatus for the fire department.
and this is the testing equipment for the breathing apparatus, so it would fall within still at $250,000 we had earmarked for it. I think there was another defibrillator.
Correct.
Part of the grant that we still, will use the residue of that $250,000. Plus, we may have to use some of their apparatus money for, to get us through to a point where
Was this within the budget year?
Yes.
I move to approve the low bid of $11,306.50 for fire protection equipment company.
Is there a second?
I second.
Nathaniel Miller has seconded. Any further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. What else, chief?
Don't forget, we'll be on the streets on the 8th, doing the boot drive.
8 to 2.
Yep.
have one item while you're here. Mr. Byers has been working, I guess, with Mike Smith, your training officer, about burning a structure at 202 Bird Road.
Okay.
As far as I understand, Mr. Byers, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that scheduled to take place? Once the asbestos is removed in a demolition permit, and I think as a matter of practice, you guys usually vote on approving the burning or a controlled burn with the fire department.
We've gone out and checked, I guess, that it's not too close to the adjacent structure.
Yeah, he's already called me.